I'm Terigrayce and welcome. So this is part 3 and the final video of the completion of Elizabeth Hartman's spectacular Savanna quilt that I've been working on. I'll talk a little bit more about the variegated thread, and we'll finish up with the Rhino, Gisèle, and the Wildebeest, and we'll get the quilt off the frame. Thank you. Okay, this is the last row of the animals, and then I'll do the leaves, and then the quilt will be done. I just wanted to talk about a couple things on what I'm going to be doing here. First, I'm going to finish the feather fill, but I wanted to mention again about the variegated thread that I had done in the line, and I love the way it came out so well. I don't think about variegated thread a lot as an option, and I really should. So if you're having trouble deciding what color thread to do, because there's so many colors in that print, or in this instance I had extreme dark, extreme light. If I had, like I said earlier in part 2, if I had done a dark brown, then it only would have shown up on the one stripe on the light, and vice versa. And this way, with the variegated thread, it had the colors, and some of the gold and the brown. It even pulled in orange from the lion's nose, so it tied the whole head together. And you can see the stitching on both the dark and the light, which I really liked. So I'm kind of sorry I didn't do it on the hippo that he's rolled up right now, but because I would have liked to have done it in that print. I didn't have any in stock, but that would have been a nice option. So I think I'm going to do, for the wildebeest, I think I'm going to use a variegated thread on his ears, and I think I'm going to use the same one. So I'm going to do straight echo lines following this angle. Let the piece talk to you, and so it's telling me what angle to do just by following this. And then I'm going to do straight half-inch spaced lines for his head, and then the nose I'll do again the baby clams, which I did on the zebra and the giraffe and most of the animals, the noses, except the rhino. I won't do it on the rhino. So I am going to finish doing the feather fill and get started on these animals. So I'm getting ready to quilt the horns on the wildebeest, and I wanted to show that they're round. I wanted them to look more round. So I decided I needed to mark this, and I'm using Terigrayce. Her templates are Art 6-inch. Here, maybe you could see her website that way. These, I love her rulers, but these are a little thicker. They're thicker than the 1/4 inch, which I prefer. So I marked the whole horn with this arch, just all the way around. So let's see how this comes out. So you can see here I changed my mind. I did not do the 1/2 inch lines down the face on the wildebeest. Before I do any lines, including the ears, I always take a ruler and I measure. I want to see where this is a 1/4 inch space, where they're going to land. And here when I was using the ruler and looking to see where the 1/2 inch lines would be, I just didn't like where they fell, where they were going to be falling. So I ended up giving the wildebeest a perm. So that's how that came out. So I finished the last of the animals, the rhino, gazelle, and the wildebeest, getting ready to finish the leaves on the bottom border, and then I'll take the quilt off the frame. So on the rhino nose, I was trying to, with the echo stitching, trying to give the illusion that his nose was sticking out, you know, the point horn of a rhino. So I don't know if I achieved that or not, but that's what I was thinking there. And here's a gazelle. It's all done. And then you have seen all the feathers are done all around here. So I am almost finished with this quilt. See you in a bit when it's off the frame. Hi, so the quilt is done. The only thing I need to do is put a binding on it, but it's all quilted. We'll go take a look at the quilt up close in just a second. I will be putting a flange binding on this. I love flange bindings. I think they frame the quilt nicely, and the best thing is you don't have to do any hand stitching. So that's why I like it. So let's go look at the quilt. So a couple of things I want to mention. Earlier I had mentioned that all the fabric on the heads are batik fabrics, and they are, except for the ears and the Rhino. This is just regular cotton fabric, and I don't have a problem mixing batiks and with regular fabrics. So that's the only fabric I could find that I felt went, but otherwise all the other pieces in the animal heads are batiks. And I also wanted to talk about stitching in the dip. So this whole quilt was pieced with the seams pressed open. There were a lot of pieces, so I felt it was better to do it that way. It spreads the bulk of the fabric, which is fine, but when the seams are pressed open, I find it very hard to stitch in the ditch and keep a straight line. If the seams were folded to one side, it's actually easier. The fold kind of helps guide the needle along with your ruler. So I decided with these seams to revert the way I prefer to stitch in the ditch, which is actually not stitching in the ditch at all. I'm stitching just a fraction to the one side of the seam, and I'll give you an example here in the Wildebeest. You could see above the top of the head, you could see the gray, the gray stitch right there. It's just a fraction above the seam. And I'm able to keep a straighter line with that with my ruler. I just prefer that. But there are some cases where I need to stitch on the other side of the seam as well. So I did one side on the gray and then the other side on the horns. It all depends on the pattern you pick as your fill. So in this pattern, I needed a highway. I needed a road to get from one arch to the other. So I needed to travel along there to get to the next one. Now, if you look at the head of the Wildebeest, this particular pattern is a continuous line pattern. So I did not need a highway along here. So I did not stitch on this side. I only stitched a fraction on the other side of the seam. So that's how I do my stitch in the ditch. I also want to mention that I had done a lot of thread color changes on this, and there are quite a few different fill patterns. And when I do that, I prefer to pick a very busy print on the back, and it kind of hides a lot of that. So I'll show you the print I chose for the back fabric. It's actually a batik as well. So it's pretty busy, and it really kind of hides all those color changes. I mean, if you look real close, you could probably see it, but. So this completes the 3-part series of quilting Elizabeth Hartman's Spectacular Savanna pattern. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate and I love that you're joining me on my quilting journey. I hope I helped you with some ideas or gave you some inspiration for your quilt journey. I will be doing a 2-part series on how to do feather fills. And even if you haven't done any feathers, or if you're thinking about starting to learn how to do feathers, I recommend you really watching this. Hopefully I can make it a lot easier for you than it was for me on how I learned how to do feathers. So I really put all the elements together on how to do feathers in the first part on any shape spine. And then the second part in the series, I will show you how to put these feathers together to create a fill. So look for those videos. Please press the subscribe button if you don't want to miss them when they're posted. And I'd like to thank you again for joining me, and I hope you join me again soon. Please have a wonderful day in your quilt journey. Bye.